everyone. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. How you doing, Senator?
I'm doing good, you know where I got this hat?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, where'd I get it?
I think you got that hat from our friend Ellie Leonard.
You're 100% correct. How did you know that? Did she tell you? Now, you see,
Maybe I'm magic.
this is a Fort Benton Longhorns hat, and Fort Benton, when I was in high school, I don't know so much anymore, was the arch enemy of the Big Sandy Pioneers. Yeah, and, Ellie gave me this. I think it's a great hat. It's a great looking hat. Yeah, and,
It
Fort
is a
Benton
great looking
Fort
hat.
Benton is the county seat of the county we live in, and, I had some great friends that lived in Fort Benton, so even though there was a rivalry, it doesn't mean it's bad there. It was it's a good town. It's a good town. So, in fact, it's really a cool little town, the birthplace of Montana. So,
So,
and and the home of the Longhorns. So that's their mascot. So
are you officially rooting for Fort Benton over Big Sandy now?
for everybody, I root for them.
wait, wait. Are you a Bobcat or a Grizzly?
Especially the especially the ones I'm a Bobcat or a Grizzly. I'm a Wildcat. No, I root for the ones who win. You know, can I
Yeah.
say I'm a fair day fan.
Well, thanks.
Anyway, we
Ellie
did.
Leonard is in Montana, and so I've seen her a few times. She came up and saw you.
Yeah.
Uh, we're gonna do a live with her one of these days in person, but I just haven't figured that out yet. Um, okay, so we are here today randomly on a Saturday because we did an interview a few days ago with Representative Sean Casten of Illinois.
Yep.
He serves on the House Financial Services Committee, so it's all about this new report from Climate Power and Center for American Progress about cost of living, right? Really rough right now. But we recorded this interview a few days ago, and there are some hiccups. Like, we have some audio hiccups in this interview because you forgot about it.
No, I didn't. I had it at 3 o'clock Montana time. You had it at 3 o'clock Eastern time, which were when we did the recording. And, so I was hauling a
So,
load of wheat. I was hauling a load of wheat down to Fort Benton, by the way, which is where I saw Ellie Leonard right after we did this recording. And, yeah, so it wasn't my fault. You just didn't put Mountain Daylight Time on it. You just put having the car.
um, do you want me to pull up the evidence? Because I'd be happy to pull up the evidence that says Eastern Standard Time.
Nah, it doesn't say Eastern. No, it doesn't.
Mhm.
You doctored, Photoshop.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Anyway, the interview went fine. It was some squeaks and squalling, and my phone died before the end of it. Other than that, it went really good.
Yeah, so it kinda just dropped the senator just kinda drops out randomly, so it's gonna be an abrupt end. So that's why we did the hat first. We did the hat first, we did the wrap up first, and, I will tell you that on Monday, since we're not wrapping this show up traditionally, I'll do it now. On Monday, we have a live interview, with the folks at the Cook Political Report.
Ooh,
I'm really excited about that,
it
and
this will be fun to talk about a lot of things, including, what's going on in places like Ohio and Maine and, Montana,
Mhm. Yeah, so if there are any specific
Iowa,
races Iowa?
Alaska. There's a bunch to talk about for sure.
If there are any specific races that you folks would like us to dig into, please get in touch with me, um, through the Grounded Substack, through email, groundedpcast@gmail.com. You can write us, before Monday at noon Eastern Time, Senator, noon Eastern Time. So what time is that here?
10 AM Mountain Daylight Time.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
You might be on the combine, right?
So most of the people out there that listen are probably savvy and they know, but Cook Political Report is, they're absolutely reputable and do a pretty good job in seeing the lay of the land. So it's gonna be interesting to see how
Yeah.
the lay of the land.
And we're gonna talk to Erin Covey specifically because she is really tuned in on these races. Like, I'm excited to talk to her. She publishes so much. She looks at all the data, and I want to ask all the things about like how do they change a rating? Because they rate these races from like you know solid red to leans red to toss up, all these things, and I want to know what goes into that because they've already changed some race ratings just in the last week.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited.
I can imagine that Maine's been changed a lot in the last week.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, but we're gonna get kinda nerdy on Monday, so we'd love it if you'd join us live. But for right now, before we play our interview, our little bit disjointed interview, partially from a semi truck, was represented.
It was totally from the semi truck. It was not partially, totally. That's where I was sitting
Yeah,
inside the truck.
with
Yeah,
the yeah, but so, before we do that, we will go over some headlines. How does that sound?
sounds just dandy. Thank
Okay,
you.
and we'll play our interview with Representative Casten. Okay, so U.S. Central Command reports that 2 U.S. troops were killed. One is still missing after an Iranian strike in Jordan. 4 other troops were medevaced to hospitals. This means now that 15 U.S. service members have died in this conflict, almost 5 months long at this point. And the US started launching retaliatory airstrikes at Iran this evening at President Trump's direction in order to punish them. So, very much escalating.
Yeah, I mean, it's what happens when you go into a conflict and you don't have a plan. What happens when you go into a conflict and you underestimate the person you're going into the conflict with. It's what happens when you get rid of all your top leadership within your military months earlier, and then decide to go in and fight a war with people who, quite frankly, in my opinion, are second string folks. So, um, none of this is surprising. None of this is shocking. When Lindsey Graham, God bless his soul, and Tom Cotton were standing up going, "This is the best thing to ever do," when Trump decided to start this war, um, I just think that very, very, very bad judgment up and down the aisle. And by the way, this isn't the only thing that this administration has had bad judgment in. And it's why the president's talking about the elections all the time because he knows his policies suck. And working families and small businesses and family farm and ranch agriculture are feeling the brunt of this, and they're going to feel the brunt in this election. And that's why he is trying to rig it.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. There's a lot there. We didn't talk about the testosterone thing. Did you see that headline?
Uh, yeah, but I forgot. It's been a few days ago. There's
Pete
been some.
Hegseth, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says we're gonna start testing for testosterone levels and jacking our service members up with testosterone if their levels are low. Um, uh, yeah, there's a lot going on. There were some really disgusting reactions on Fox News to that. I went over it with Miles Taylor and Xander Schultz on Defiance the other night. But yeah, it's just getting really the toxic masculinity is getting really intense. So I do want to say for folks in the chat, they're talking about the World Cup game. Did you follow this, Senator?
I haven't been watching the World Cup. Sorry,
Not at all.
not a soccer guy.
Well, I guess it's being dubbed the craziest World Cup game ever. England wins a 10-goal thriller, according to USA Today. It looks like people are watching it in our chat, like people coming in saying the best soccer game they've ever seen.
Well, I think soccer is great, and I think that that watch it they're addicted to it like I'm addicted to,
Basketball.
baseball or basketball or
Yeah.
football. I just haven't spent enough time watching soccer or hockey to figure out what the hell the sport's about, whether it's kicking a ball through the goal or putting the puck in the net, you know?
I think maybe we need to get you on like a soccer field or a hockey rink and like
I don't do well on skates, I'm just gonna tell you, and I don't run fast anymore, and
yeah,
so
this game was between England and France, and England won. Crazy. Crazy. Okay, so I do wanna get
Didn't England just play Argentina and lose to 'em? What's going on here? There must this I'm not following the bracket either, so I
I
got it.
don't know, you got me. I'm stumped. Somebody's gonna get in the comments, they're gonna let us know. They're gonna let us know. Um, Tony Wilson's asking, "John, are you aware of the Powell Doctrine? It was a series of questions developed by Colin Powell that had to be answered before the US committed troops to anything." Yeah, uh yeah, I don't think we're really living up to that. Tony also says it was a 3rd place playoff, so that's what this game was.
That's what it was. Okay, well, that's good. Well, good for England. Uh,
Uh,
but I would just say this, what I'm not familiar with the Powell Doctrine. I will read it, but the problem here with what the president has done with this war of choice in Iran is he's turned the economy upside down, and he has created a real problem for the world. Iran now is a much bigger problem than it was before we invaded them, and it's because there wasn't questions asked, there wasn't questions answered, there wasn't planning done. There was, a total disregard for facts. I mean, you just go up and down the line. It's total bush league by the country who's supposed to have the greatest military in the world.
uh, yeah, we're gonna get to the election stuff in a minute, but our friends on the East Coast are experiencing this really awful thing that we go through out west nearly every summer, icky, icky wildfire smoke blanketing the region on the East Coast, coming from wildfires burning in Canada, because that's what happens when we have fires. The smoke blows where the wind blows. Uh, but the president of the United States wants someone to be held accountable. Have you heard about this yet, Senator?
You just keep talking and I'll
Okay. So, he
who's
says
does he want God held accountable? Who's he want held accountable? So
yeah,
let's
no, he says he's going to hold Canada responsible for this,
oh,
for not maintaining their forests. He says,
oh,
to that end, he's adding more tariffs
yeah.
onto Canada. Um, and also, we should mention some of that smoke is from Minnesota, where they're
Right,
dealing
yeah.
with wildfires. But by his logic, I'm guessing we owe some folks some money because we haven't really managed our forests well. And oh, also, there's climate change leading to bigger, more extreme wildfire every single year. Under this logic, could have state governments suing each other because guess how many times a year I get smoke in my yard from Idaho.
Yeah, well, and we won't talk about the fact that the president, this administration has gutted the Forest Service and the BLM and their ability to fight fires. We won't talk about the fact that there are certain people in Congress that carry bills only to benefit themselves by paying firefighting costs from the federal government. We won't talk about the fact that the president's one of his first actions when he got into office was do away with renewable energy and go strictly with carbon-based fuels that create CO2 that add to climate change. We don't talk about any of this bullshit because this guy's living in an alternate world. He's lost his mind. Okay. In Canada, by the way, my good friends up north have a little sense of common sense and ability to manage things pretty damn well. But the fact is, with climate change, this is what happened. Shit gets hot, shit burns, places that get rain don't get rain. I mean, this is what happens. And so close your eyes to climate change, act like it doesn't happen. Don't do anything to try to solve the problem. And then bitch about it when you get smoke in the East Coast. I watched the game between Philly and the Mets the other day. It was horrible. But like you said, we've had this here every year for the last 20 years, maybe longer, but 20 years of my memory. And sometimes it happens in the spring. Year before last, springtime, it was so damn smoky that you didn't want to be out seeding.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is so ridiculous, and it shows how out of touch this president is, shows how out of touch the policy people in his cabinet are, and it just you just go down the list. We started with the war in Iran. Now we're going here. We'll go somewhere else. It'll be equally as ignorant.
Yeah, the summer I moved to Montana for college, 2003. you couldn't see the mountains. It both smelled like smoke, constantly just walking outside. That was, that was a really bad fire year, and we've seen so many of those since I've lived here in the last 23 years. It turned me a little bit into a fire nerd. Like, I did a lot of wildfire reporting. I've been on the lines. I've done reporting on the research and the management and all of that, and, um, there's so many things to say about this, but this is uh, I did a story a few years ago with one of the hotshot crews, and, the stuff that they're up against continuously now, it's not normal,
Right.
and this is unprecedented, and the truth is, I also did stories, in the middle of winter in Colorado, where a whole subdivision surrounded by concrete burned to the ground because of insane winds and just these weather anomalies. But these weather anomalies aren't really anomalies anymore because of what we're going through. And the hotshot I interviewed, the superintendent, I'll never forget his quote, and it said, "Everywhere will burn. It might not be in my lifetime or your lifetime, but everywhere will burn under these conditions." So it's a mess, and the fact that we're going to, yeah, put tariffs on Canada, give me a break. We have a lot of issues here with our own forests.
Well, that's a fact, and the other thing is this: fire is part of the landscape. It's the way it is.
Yep.
You build your house in the middle of a forest, chances are at some point in time that forest is gonna burn because fire is part of the landscape. What isn't part of the landscape is the intensity and the frequency, and that's what's changed.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Making sure we don't have any questions in the chat.
Well,
Yeah.
we got a dude that's got a great Aussie name by the name of Tony Wilson that I'm looking at that asks if the he said the farmers in Australia are bitching uh, about the price of diesel fuel and fertilizer. 100% correct. And by the way, that's part of the problem. If I was Australia, I'd really be pissed. If I was Canada, I'd really be pissed because they didn't start this war. The United States did. And it's raised energy costs and fertilizer costs for farmers around the world and for businesses around the world in the case of energy and for working families around the world. And it's because of a lack of leadership, vision, and common sense by the guy that's sitting in the White House. Do I
Yeah.
need to be more clear than that? The folks that are out there that listen to this, I don't know how many are that say that this guy is doing a great job as president. Pull your head out of your ass and look what's going on. Things are bad. ICE is killing people on a daily basis. Uh, uh, we've got gas prices that are through the roof. Input costs are gone through the roof. Families are having a hard time making their budgets match up. We've got medical facilities that are on the verge of closing down. Some already have. We've got medical costs going through the roof for many Americans, and people are saying this guy's doing a great job. Wow, I just got to tell you. I mean, if I was a MAGA Republican, we had one on the show the other day, a reformed one. I'd be so pissed because this guy hasn't delivered anything that he said he was gonna deliver in the campaign.
Yeah, Connie in the Substack comment says we don't mention the situation we've caused the rest of the world enough, and it's true. And it's not just about this and oil and fuel prices and food prices, but I think about USAID,
Yep.
now gone for more than a year, and all of the aid and help and food supply and medicine and access to medicine that we have just cut off, and the amount of people who've suffered. It's it's really, really, really sad. There's a lot of suffering. Okay, so let's get to this whole thing. Did you watch the primetime address on Thursday?
Damn it,
Oh,
Maritza,
you
how
missed it.
can you do this to me? I mean, you put me on the spot. I had my alarm clock set. I gotta tell you, I was working on equipment and I missed it.
Yeah, in case y'all are wondering why we're on a Saturday evening, it's because we were supposed to do this Wednesday,
Yeah.
and Like, John has been around the clock, either in a tractor, working on a tractor, in a combine, working on a combine, driving to get parts to fix something, like,
I made idiot cubes today. I mean, this morning I made some idiot cubes. It's a beautiful thing. I haven't done that in years, and I did it for uh, I did it for a neighbor who's also a nephew, and he's had some health issues, and
oh,
so we had a few rows of hay that I hadn't picked up yet. So I went and got his baler with his tractor, and this baler looked like it was built in 1912. Square baler makes idiot cubes, but I'm telling you, it was the best damn baler I ever ran. It didn't miss. It tied every bale. Bales are pretty damn nice, and it was incredible. It was an amazing experience.
they don't make them like they used to. So are you stealing this
No,
baler now?
I've been buying balers that have too good a paint on 'em. I need to buy the ones that the paint's almost all gone.
Did you
Yeah,
steal it?
I didn't steal it. I took it back when I was done. I took it back. My son loaded up a bunch of the hay, and we took it back and stacked it. And yeah,
Okay. Well, here's what you missed. Uh, Newsflash, not much. He revealed nothing. He broke into primetime.
surprise, surprise. And you ask why I didn't watch it.
I didn't ask why, I asked if you did.
Okay, all right.
Uh, so
Actually,
some networks didn't carry this, some did. And then he went after them and he's calling for their FCC license to be reviewed, of course. But the president said that newly declassified documents show China illegally acquired 220 million US voter files with names, addresses, phone numbers, etc. Here's one of the many problems with this. Election experts say that that information is already publicly available. He says he was never briefed on it. It was basically kept from him during his first term. Well, former intelligence staffers say, yeah, they did alert the president about this in the first term, and it was released in a public report in 2020. Moreover, I'm gonna play something for you. I'm slow here. I'm slow. Moreover, one of his advisors talked to Von Hilliard after that address outside the White House, and here's what he had to say.
Has repeatedly claimed that he won the 2020 election, and that is why this.
Oh, here, I added the wrong thing. Here we go. Hold on, hold on.
You acknowledge that there were no votes changed in 2020.
I all I can acknowledge is what the intelligence shows, right? I only know the intelligence community has zero evidence that someone has that a foreign power flipped a vote in 2020, 22, or 24.
And you have no, you're able to
We're not
acknowledge
through all the
that
documents.
you're able to acknowledge that Venezuela has not tampered with voting machines in the United States.
No, the intelligence is very clear. They did it on their own machine. Why is it important that they did it on their machines? Their machine protocols are the same as America. Why? Because for a long time they did.
And so the
Yeah,
2020 election was in fact the results as we the American public.
I'm still researching. So let me. This is the first.
But there's no intelligence.
Not yet.
Guys, he's gotta go.
There is no intelligence at the election.
you know,
So, like-
you know, you know what that was? That was the press person saying we got to get the hell out of here because this ain't going well. This
Yeah.
ain't going well at all.
Like, oh, shit.
You didn't read the talking points, man. You got to stick to those talking points. You can't tell the truth. Yeah, it's
So
crazy.
not one vote, no intelligence that one vote flipped. And his advisor said that, and then said, "Oh well, we're still working on it." Well, then why'd you hold a primetime address? So many other blatant lies in the address. I mean, he continues to do this thing that I do not understand. He keeps saying that the Democrats want transgender for everyone. I don't know what that means. Like, it's
Well,
and he
just
keeps
look
repeating
at
it.
you know what it means. I mean, they
It's just
look
fear
it up
mongering.
in 24. They ran a picture of a dude dressed up like a woman. They ran it in Montana. They ran it in same person in Ohio. They ran it all over the country. They had success.
Yeah,
I got
but,
people know that. So they're going to keep bringing up the shit that they think works because
I
they got no
understand that.
policies. They got no policies they can look at and say, look, we've lowered costs, or you know what, price of gas is affordable, or you know what, small businesses are doing great. They've got nothing.
I
Dro-
understand that
Job
part of it.
is dropping. The economy is not where it needs to be. to have a good election for Republicans. They got to talk about trans,
I
and they got to talk about
understand that.
elections.
But the idea that he says they want transgender for everybody is like is so it's like this isn't like this isn't like health insurance. Like this is ridiculous. But anyway, the big underlying concern here, on top of all the lies, right? Like there was no huge new information. And people say, why now? Well, it's what he's laying the groundwork for and what they're trying to set up by doing this now, a way to preemptively undermine November's results.
100%, 100%, because their policies are so bad that they've got to change the democracy to fit them. This is very dangerous time for this country. I'm telling you, a very dangerous time for this country.
Okay, so I did see our friend David Becker on basically every news program that I turned on after this address, talking like debunking all of the things the president said. I mean, he was going on about the voting machines, things that have been debunked. Like the voting machine, like Fox paid almost $800 million to Dominion for making the same kind of claims about the
This is the whole thing, Reed. So this is about pissing on your feet and tell you it's raining. I mean, how many times you said the Iranian military has been destroyed? Well, we just lost 2 service members. Funny. Doesn't look like the military is destroyed, but he claims it's destroyed every time he gets up. He says it's destroyed. So this is what they do. They talk about, oh, this is horrible. No evidence, but this is what they're going to do. Why? Because they have no leadership. They have no platform. They have no record of accomplishment. And that is a fact. That's just a fact. So they got to talk about shit like boys and girls bathrooms and trans and all that crap because they think that's going to change the world. Let me tell you something. I've met in all my time in the US Senate, I think I met 2 people who were trans. I might have met more than that, but I didn't know that. But 2 people that actually admitted the fact they're trans. Did those people have one bit of effect on me as a human being? Did they affect me in any way, positive or negative? No, they didn't. They were regular people, just like anybody else,
they're
dealing with
humans. Yeah.
yeah, dealing with issues. But they want to make them into subhumans, or they want to make them into people that shouldn't be respected, and that's all bullshit. You know what I mean? I,
Yeah, I totally
yeah,
know what you mean.
so yeah, you totally know what I mean.
I
Anyway,
totally know what you mean, and let me also mention, I just told you this ahead of the thing, but, on top of this, Tommy Tuberville, your former colleague, is saying that 4 or 5 US senators didn't actually legally win their elections, but offers no evidence.
eh,
So
let me guess. I bet you if Tommy came up with those names, I bet you not a damn one of them's a Republican. I'll bet you.
mm,
I'll bet you a beer. I'll bet you a Bush Light with lime. How's that?
no, I don't want that bet. How about a glass of Prosecco?
I don't like prosecco. God, how about we go with a shot of Crown Royal on the rocks? Okay.
Alright,
Oh,
alright. I do owe you $50 still. But yeah, that's kind of the whole thing, right? Like, how many Republicans won in 2020? We're not contesting those races, just the presidential.
yeah, and Tuberville goes without saying. He's the guy who screwed up the military before Trump by not letting the people get confirmed as generals. It's just crazy. I hope my friend Doug Jones in Alabama wins that bad boy. And if you haven't given any money to Doug Jones, give him some money because the dude's a good dude. He works hard and his politics are right and his policies are right. And he's got common sense, which is something that doesn't seem to exist much anymore anywhere.
We gotta call Joyce White Vance because we talked to her about going down to Alabama and doing a pod with Doug and her in Bama.
Yeah. Well, we need to do it. We need to get Doug on this podcast.
Yeah, I know, but we should go do it in Alabama.
That'd be good. Well, let me get harvest. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta get harvest done. Alright, anything else before I play this chat?
That's about it. Uh, yeah, that's about it. I did another interview today with a online person on rural America and what Democrats need to do. So I wish the lady's name was Natalie Furtick, but you don't know her.
What outlet was she with?
She's got her own outlet. She's got her own kinda, uh, subscription thing for trying to let trying to be honest with you, I think what she's trying to do is make it so the country's less divided, so we have a better understanding of what's going on in rural America.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, that sounds like a good idea.
I applaud the effort. I applaud the effort.
All right, well, we're gonna play this conversation. I apologize for some of our audio issues. It's tough when you're in north central Montana in a semi truck on a phone that's overheating and you forgot what time we were doing it.
All I gotta say is man's gotta make a living, okay? Alright?
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Oh, I didn't tell you either, but well, we'll talk. We'll talk after this. I'm gonna play our conversation. We will not come back on the other side of this because Senator Tester deserves some downtime. He's been in the field in 100-degree temperature.
102 degrees working on, swapping bearings out of a goddamn header on a combine. Anyway, that's
Wait,
all.
are you going to be in a combine on Monday when we do our interview?
No, harvest is probably gonna start in about 7 or 8 days with some peas, which is gonna raise hell with a certain podcast we got going, in Missoula or Helena, but we'll deal with that one.
Oh, ruh yeah, we have one coming up, in person. Alright, well, we'll get to it. Here is that conversation. Thank
And
you.
all the comments in the chat, by the way. See
Yeah, we love
how
this.
I go.
Alright, bye, guys. Okay, so we want to welcome now to Grounded Representative Sean Casten, a member of the House Financial Services Committee, and he also represents the great people of Illinois' 6th Congressional District. Welcome, Representative Casten.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's good to have you on, Representative. Before we start, can you just tell us a little bit about your district? What is it, ag or urban, or what is it?
It's funny. I was just had a bunch of soy farmers in here, and I was telling them that it's ag in the sense that we know that the right way to pronounce soy is edamame. Um, Chicago suburbs, a little bit of Chicago, but basically all suburban neighborhoods west and south of Chicago.
Cool, cool, cool.
I'm
Eh,
gonna hold on. I need to mute you when he's talking.
You need to mute me?
Okay, yeah. Now I just had to figure out how to do it because you have some feedback. Folks, just for people watching, Senator Tester is, we know, it's deep into farm season and he's in a semi truck right now unloading grain. Is that right?
That's correct, but I also want, the representative to know that I do eat edamame, so, there you go.
I mean, most people don't know that that's how you pronounce that word, but it's
Yeah,
good to know.
well,
Yeah, that's right.
my wife buys it by the bag and puts salt on it, and it's pretty damn good, actually. I like it.
Yeah. No, we could have another conversation I never have with the soy farmers about my support for getting more phytoestrogens into the food supply. But,
Okay, so Representative, we have you here. As much as we could talk about edamame all day, we do want to talk about this new report from both Climate Power and the Center for American Progress Action Fund, and it really just talks about cost of living and all of the prices that we've seen go up. And when I told Senator Tester about this and that we were doing this interview, he goes, "Well, I don't need a report for that. I could have told you that." So, like, what stands out to you as you're going through these numbers and what you think still needs to
um, so, in many ways, I think all of us sort of knew that this was coming on. I mean, you can't do this job and be out talking to constituents and not have been aware that when those tariffs came in, I mean, I've lost track of how many small businesses came to me and said, I don't have the budget to do this. I can't pass this along. Even now that they can, that the Supreme Court has ruled they can get the tariffs back, maybe they're downstream and they weren't the importer, but how do they get some recourse on this? Um, we were joking about soy farmers, but I was downstate Illinois in a much redder part of the state about a year ago, and these soy farmers were coming up and just furious that the tariffs that the Trump administration put on soy caused China to stop buying soy, which is the U.S.'s largest export market. And then when they saw the Trump administration go and start subsidizing Argentina because those Chinese soy buyers are shifting to Argentina and Brazil, there's just rage. So none of what's in this report, I think, is new information to those of us who've been paying attention. I do think that it's worth noting, and this is maybe just top of mind because we had Kevin Warsh, the new chair of the Federal Reserve and Financial Services yesterday, and there's these in the July 2026 monetary policy report they came out with. You can look at inflation over the last. They always put these charts in of over the last years, and they show both the U.S. inflation and international inflation. And in 2020, you had global inflation on account of COVID that then gradually came down at various rates. You can see after Liberation Day, and you can also see it in this CAP report, US inflation spikes after Liberation Day because all the cost of inputs go up. Yeah, there you go. You got it in your chart.
Yeah, I just
The
put it
rest
up.
of For the rest of the world, inflation kept coming down after Liberation Day because it wasn't affecting them. When we attacked Iran, global inflation ticks up and our inflation ticks up again because we've now driven up the price of oil and all the downstream, the plastics and fertilizers and everything else. So we did one stupid thing on the economic policy front that gave us domestic inflation. And then we did a second stupid thing on the foreign policy front that juiced that with international inflation. And everybody can see it in their pocketbook, but I mean, it's good to have the numbers, and I'm glad Cat put it out. But the fact is, this data is in the independent Federal Reserve's July 2026 policy report. This is not just something that Democratic think tanks are putting out.
Well, one of the things that surprised me, Representative, well, it didn't surprise me because, like you say, if you're paying attention, you shouldn't be surprised. But you pull in the gas pump and it costs you 40 bucks more than it used to cost you to fill up the pickup. You go in the grocery store, prices haven't gone down; they've gone up. In my case, I go farm parts. The farm parts have gone up significantly. But when you start adding all the things together, it gets to be a pretty good chunk out of a family's budget.
Yeah.
Just the increases in cost since President Trump was sworn into office, what, the 23rd of January of last year?
Client.
We've seen costs go up and up and up, and then you add them all together, there's nothing left for people to live off of.
Yeah, yeah. And not surprisingly, you're seeing like more borrowing, more credit card defaults, like all the stuff that follows from that. There's I don't know if this is going to be a test of how good you are at pulling up charts, but there's the chart that showed in that report that shows which states were most hit by the higher gasoline costs.
Oh, I don't
And
have that one. I
well,
have this one though that
Let
shows.
let let let
well,
me guess. The rural states.
yeah, number one is Wyoming, number two is Alabama, number three is Utah, number four is Mississippi. There's states where people are driving a lot of distance, right? But you're not sitting there next to really effective mass transit. But they're also the red states, right? Because red and rural is sort of synonymous in the world we're in now. So the people who are being most affected by this are the Trump voters.
Yep. Yeah, but
Yeah.
and by the way, that continues with his policies, with this extending the war in Iran for what? Another, what do you say, 20 years, Maritza?
Well,
I mean,
it's important that we replace Khomeini with Khomeini and
yeah.
Yeah.
and gave them $300 billion, which I guess is what the MOU says.
Yeah, and this report really puts a number on it. I mean, Senator Tester, you hit on this, but it shows that the president and his allies in Congress drove up the cost of families by at least $2,000. That's not nothing. Like I how are families supposed to go on? I mean, every single day on a Facebook group or an Instagram group or something in my community, I see more people asking for help. I'm
Yeah,
this much short on my utility bill. I'm this much short on my mortgage. My phone's going to be shut off. I need help. I need formula for my baby. And it's heartbreaking to see, and I am constantly like sending $20 here, $20 there to help, but that's not enough. What are we going to do?
yeah, and the networks that are there to cover it just aren't strong enough. The food pantries are going like gangbusters, but if you needed food assistance in this country a year ago, you overwhelmingly got that from SNAP. The food pantries were to shore up for people who weren't SNAP eligible, but The food that goes through the food pantries is a fraction of what goes through SNAP, and now you've got these huge SNAP cuts coming through the pipe. Um, I mean, I hate speaking in statistics, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that the median American household has $8,000 in the bank. The median, right? I mean, the average is higher because, Elon Musk weights up the average, but but half of the households in America have less than 8,000 bucks in their bank account. So hitting them with $2,000 is a horrible set of choices, and entirely volitionally, right? I mean, we can have a whole conversation around, could we have responded to COVID quicker? Did we respond in ways that were, stimulative to inflation? We leave that to economists. There is no question but that if you if you pass a tariff that increases the price of an imported good, it is inflationary. This is this is not complicated, right?
Yeah, that's for damn sure. So Maurice asked a really good question, and the question representative is what can we do about it? And is Congress got anything on the books that they're trying to do? Or I know Democrats don't control the House or the Senate or the executive branch, but is there something that people can be advocating for out there that can give folks some hope?
I mean, I'm going to get, eh, and I'm going to defer a little bit to you because I think you've probably got more experience as a legislator than I do. I've been in this gig for 8 years. I think that I think there's an awareness among the American people that our institutions are in need of repair. And there are some people who look at that and say that the response is to burn down the institutions, and there's some people who look at that and say the response is to hire repair technicians. Um, but I think, when we're sitting there and saying there is it is unambiguous that those tariffs were illegal. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled that those tariffs are illegal. The Supreme Court could have ruled in the first instance, based on the plain text of the Constitution, that they were illegal, or at least sustained the stay so that the tariffs couldn't be applied. And instead, they waited 8 months while all those costs rippled through the society and hit people. And a lot of the people aren't going to get that back because the importers can get that money back. But if you're sitting on the farm and you're buying fertilizer from the guy who bought it from the distributor who bought it from the importer, you're not getting anything back, right? And that was a failure of the Supreme Court to understand the assignment. And so what do we do institutionally to to hold our institutions to greater account? And I think there's a number of things, and I've got legislation that would curtail some of the ability of the Supreme Court to act through the shadow docket. We can take away their ability to grant cert to decide what cases they hear. We can actually set their jurisdiction on the appellate courts. Um, there are things like that we can do, but when we're sitting here and saying Congress passes a law, the executive branch disobeys the law, and the enforcement mechanisms take more time than we have, Martin Luther King is still right. Justice delayed is still justice denied, right? And what kind of institutional reforms do we need to make sure that that works better? And I think a lot of us know what we can do. The question is, do we have the political courage? Do we have the political support in our base to say this is a time for repair, and repair is a long project? Arson may be more satisfying because it's faster, but that doesn't leave you in a better position.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct. It takes the next president's got a hell of a job ahead of him, assuming we're not going to have a free and fair election. I would just like to add something to that. I mean, we saw the tariffs take effect. We've seen it increase in cost. We've seen what's happened with the war in Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The fact is, my wife and I have been farming for 50 years, and we've seen equipment prices go up, and we've seen input costs go up. I don't know that I've ever seen them go down.
Yeah.
And the fact is that these tariffs have increased our costs. The war in Iran have increased our costs. And even if the tariffs are taken away, I don't think those costs are going to go down. I think they're up. They're up for a long time. And it's because of real shitty policy by a guy that's sitting in the White House that doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion. This guy is no art of the deal. He's no businessman. He doesn't understand the policies he advocates for and what they do. Those tariffs were the largest tax increase on the citizens of America ever. And yet you've got Republicans out there saying, I like him because he gets things done.
Yeah, I mean, I do say I think, and this is going to be a deep cut, there's a weird link from Steve Forbes to Donald Trump. Remember when Steve Forbes was running for president, he said, we're going to get rid of the income tax and just go to a consumption tax. I think there's long been this theory in the Republican Party that that if you can transfer money from the poor to the rich by shifting to sales taxes and getting away from income taxes. And it's not just the tariffs, right? We blew a $4 trillion hole in our deficit so that we could give tax cuts to our nation's wealthiest, and then claimed that we were going to offset that to some degree by putting tariffs on imported goods. It's just adding a sales tax, right? Effectively.
That's right.
Not to
That's right.
mention the cuts to, the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act
Mhm.
premiums,
Yeah.
which is a huge increase in cost for those families. And then I'm hearing too, even though there's relief for some of the importers on the tariffs, I'm hearing that a lot of these claims are being denied because there's like a statute of limitations for when they paid them out and when they would have had to file to get that money back. So this is really complicated, and it is hitting our businesses. It is hitting our families. It's hitting people who need help with healthcare. And so I guess I'm wondering, all of this too comes, by the way, the same week that this report from Climate Power and CAP came out. We learned that the president's reported income hit $2.2 billion in
Mhm.
2025. And he goes on and says, affordability's made up. It's a hoax. They made it up. There is no this is a made up word. This is a made up problem. This isn't real. Or he says he doesn't care. So how is this going to play out in November? Do you think that this is going to have the effect that Democrats hope it's going to have? Or do you think that uh, Teflon Don will continue to skate by and let this slip off of his back?
Well, look, and you already said this, Senator, so I'm not going to jinx myself by repeating it. If we have free and fair elections, Democrats can do real well. Um, the reason why there's this push for sending ICE to polling places and this push to sort of, passing the SAVE Act so that if you're a woman and you changed your name when you got married, it's going to be a little harder for you to prove your ability to vote at a polling place, or if you don't have a passport. Like all of that is designed to suppress voter turnout. But I think the Teflon isn't working. I would sort of characterize the White House right now as being very similar to where Nixon was at the same point in his second term. The when Nixon's popularity fell below 40% was when he fired Haldeman and Dean. When Trump's fell to 40% was when he fired Tulsi and Bondi. There is a parallel. When Nixon fell below 30%, the party turned on him. Trump's now at about 35, and you're seeing people like, your former colleagues Tillis and Cornyn and Cassidy, who are, getting a little tired of the shtick. Some of the folks in the House who are up for reelection who are saying, I got to separate myself from this a bit. And I think you're seeing very similar to where Nixon was at that point of he's a cornered raccoon, right? And the good news is he's cornered, and the bad news is he's a raccoon.
The part that worries me though is that I don't know that the Republican Party right now even has a soul. I think they lost it when they bought onto this MAGA stuff, and I have my doubts whether they will go in and anybody in the Republican Party will have a tough conversation with Donald Trump about his mental acuity and the policies that he's put forward and the kind of, quite frankly, blatant corruption that's gone on in this administration like we've never seen before. If Nixon was president right now, Nixon was a fighter compared to what Trump's doing. I'm telling you, he's
No doubt, and I don't think there's anybody in the Republican Party other than Trump who I would say is blessed with a great degree of leadership skills. But I think we've reached a point where they are starting to look for someone else to follow.
I will say too, though, I will say that I would have agreed with you this morning on some of that, but I just watched this Todd Blanche Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, where I saw Senator Tillis really kind of fall back in line with the president in a lot of ways. And so we continue to see this kind of seesaw effect. On the ACA, though, I mean, I know this was the big fight last year when we shut the government down the first time on this go around in this administration. So, is there any recourse there? Is there any way that you think the House or the Senate will get something through to restore those subsidies to help people afford their health care?
I mean, the good news is we had what I think we had 12 or 13 Republicans join us on the discharge petition to force the vote in the House. So I think we've got the votes in the House. The Senate's always tougher because of the filibuster, but I think, I think that discharge petition, I think, was the first time that any Republicans had ever supported anything related to the ACA. So I think it's a sign that there is starting to be some recognition in those districts that people actually like having access to healthcare. It's only taken us 20 years to realize that, but I think, I think that's there.
So do you think just for people watching, I don't know what happened. Oh, there he is. He's back. He disappeared for a minute. Are you there? Are you there?
I'm back here, but I'm getting a lot of feedback on this phone. I don't know if it's getting ready to die or not. So
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm gonna keep muting you out then.
let me say this, Representative Casten, because I think I'm going to be dying here pretty quick. I appreciate you fighting for the average people in this country. We need more of that. We got too many people fighting for the White House and not enough people fighting for their own constituency. And I think it's really important that people get reminded of who does this kind of stuff. For 47 years, every president of the United States said, we don't want to go into Iran. Trump stood up and said, we're good, let's do this. This is the right thing to do. And you just talked about some of the things, the money that's changing hands, the facts that the Strait of Hormuz is now a tool to be used against the entire world. We've seen what he did with tariffs. We've seen what he's done with the ACA. We've seen what he's done to the Department of Education. We've seen what he's done to small businesses in this country and family farm agriculture and working families. And without more people like you, Representative Casten, that are willing to stand up and point out the deficiencies in this administration, people are going to forget who really caused this problem.
Yeah, well, that's kind, and we miss having you around here as well. I find myself, and I keep saying this. I was talking to a high school government class, and it's now just sort of become a part of my stump speech. But the when our founders were working on what ultimately became the Constitution, they were having this question of how would you possibly know that you only would elect virtuous people into these jobs? And Madison said that it's because we can't depend on the virtue of our leaders that we have to trust in the virtue of those who select them. And that's the basic bet of democracy, and we don't get it right every time. But I do have great confidence that as long as people vote, as long as people are educated when they go into the voting booth, as long as we do everything we can to make sure people vote, the overwhelming majority of Americans are virtuous and will select virtuous people. And the race we're in right now is will democracy destroy the current version of the Republican Party so that it can be reborn, as the party of Lincoln it was founded on, or will the current version of the Republican Party destroy democracy? And that's the race that we're all in.
Well, let's hope it's the former and not the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else we're missing, Congressman, about this report, or anything you're tracking that you think that is being underreported right now in this news cycle?
Well, so the one of the the report really talks about three sources of costs. One is the tariffs, one is the healthcare cuts, and the other, and Iran, I guess, four sources. But then the fourth they've got is all the cuts in the clean energy incentives. And I think in the same way we were saying that the top states that are feeling the pinch of higher gasoline costs are the rural states with a lot of mileage. The states that are being most hit by higher electricity costs are the states where the grid is gas marginal, because you've seen because of the push to export more LNG, that's pushed up the prices of natural gas. And if your grid on the margin has a power source that doesn't cost anything to operate, then on the margin, your price doesn't go up. That's what happens in the Pacific Northwest, right? If you're in BPA country, Senator, like you know that you're awash in wind and hydro. If you're in a part of the country where on the margin, when the grid gets tighter, you run a gas plant a little harder, then higher natural gas costs magnify by the cost of that generator. And so you're seeing the biggest spikes as we've dropped people's access to efficiency, to weatherization, the things that like let them have a hot shower and a cold beer without consuming any fuel. That incrementally hits hardest in places like Maryland, places like New Jersey, but it's because they're gas marginal states, and so we have. I sort of find myself sitting here and saying we have the tools to give people access to cheaper, and we're blocking them access to the cheaper energy, even as we raise the prices of the more expensive stuff.
And one thing I'll ask about that, and this is for both of you, but I just struggle with knowing that information and having that information available and disseminating it and getting it out to people and voters. Because I had somebody who I know very well who works in fuel transport who told me that the Strait of Hormuz is having no impact on our fuel prices because we don't get any of our fuel from there. And I said it's a much bigger equation than that. But there's just a lot of misunderstanding or just not understanding at all as to how this reaches us. So how do we get the message better? How do we reach people to help them understand and connect the dots here?
Well, what all my pollsters told me is you need to go on John Tester's podcast because that goes viral every time.
Oh God, no.
That's not true, Senator?
Unbelievable. Well, that's worth a beer. I'll buy you a beer for that one. Well, just let me say this, and I'm talking from 2,000 miles away, Representative. But for Maritz's question, oil is a world market. Period. It is whatever the world market is impacts everybody in the world, including the United States. But on the second part, what I think Democrats need to do, Representative, and I know that you're part of the mix, man, is Democrats need to come up for solutions for these problems that people are talking about every day. Because the truth is Democrats, your exception, don't talk about these issues enough. They should talk about them all the time.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, everybody knows conservation is the lowest hanging fruit, and this president has taken that off the board. Everybody knows that wind and solar is the cheapest form of electricity out there. He's taken that off the board. So we wonder why things like energy costs are going up, especially after you invade Iran. Yeah, all these things together have its impact.
Yeah, no, and you're very kind. You're very kind to me, but I spent 20 years in the energy industry, so I hope I'm a little bit fluent in this stuff. There's other members who have different kinds of expertise, and that's okay. I do think as relates to energy, and I've had this conversation with our caucus many times, we always make a mistake when we do energy politics and call it energy policy. Right. And I think too often, when energy prices are stable, it's not a salient issue in the ballot box. And so it's very rare that the voters elect someone who really spends a lot of time thinking about energy. We elect a lot of people who think about healthcare. We elect a lot of people who think about food because those are all issues that are always salient to us. And I do think we are, it's a struggle that when we find ourselves in these energy crises, I always say we have a PhD level problem, and Congress writ large is at a sixth grade reading level as it relates to energy policy.
Senator, your microphone is all kind of wonky, so I don't know if it's gonna work for you to say much more. Oh,
That's
listen, this is how it works. He's just out.
yeah, that's an alien abduction to end the podcast.
Yes, well, we thank you so much, and I know this is a big issue, and there are so many strings to pull on, but thank you for agreeing to come on and kind of chat about this report, and helping us kind of figure out what we do next, and yeah, I will make sure to link to this report on our Substack page. Anything else you wanna say before you go,
You
Representative?
know, the one last thing that I was gonna say, and I got clipped off a little bit when you're talking about things that we could do to fix this.
Yeah.
A couple of my new colleagues, freshman colleagues, Eugene Vindman and Dave Min, have been working on this idea, which I really like, that says that the if an executive branch official breaks the law, we should be able to hold them civilly accountable, for certain laws, and we already do that for some things, like the Federal Records Act. If you work at the State Department and you don't preserve your records, you can be held personally liable. You've got a bunch of ICE officers right now who are saying, "Well, I killed somebody, but I was doing my job, and so you can't come after me because I'm shielded, through some federal laws." And you wanna be a little bit careful about that, but I think there are certainly cases where we could say, "Look, if someone in the Department of Commerce approved a tariff that caused you to personally lose money and that tariff was found to be illegal, you should be able to go after that individual for restitution." Um,
Interesting.
because that would create a situation where I think people would think twice about taking orders from from a grifter, right? If they had to be personally liable.
Well, and I'm listening to Regime Change by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, and I'm at the part where they're talking and just basically coming up with out of thin air this tariff policy and based on their reporting. And so much of it is just, yeah, a couple of people making decisions. Stephen Miller certainly a big loudspeaker in the president's ear. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I see lawmakers getting creative in all kinds of ways. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry Senator Tester dropped off early.
Well, hopefully that truck will get itself unloaded and the grain will get dropped off, somewhere. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me in. Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Take care.